This is the Seven Figure Standard Podcast, hosted by Arash Vasugi and Mikey Stiller, with mindset and strategies to help you break through and create personal freedom.
Welcome back to the Seven Figure Standard Podcast. I'm Mikey Stiller. So excited to be here with you for another episode, joined, of course, by my co-host, Arash Vasugi. Hi, Arash. How are you doing?
I'm great, Mikey. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm really excited about today's episode because, as you and I both know, nothing happens without what we're going to talk about today, which is making an irrevocable, committed decision. So you can do all the affirmations you want. You can build your image. You can do all the visualization and all these other tools. But if you don't make a decision to change your life, nothing's going to change. So why don't you talk a little bit about decision in a broader terms, and then we'll get into kind of how to implement it.
Yeah, decision. I'm thinking right now while we're talking, and it takes me back about 15, 16 years where I was not a good decision maker. I was making decisions based on my present circumstances. I was making it based on what other people in my environment, my core environment, would be in harmony with. And that wasn't a decision. Unless you make an irrevocable, committed decision, nothing moves. Without a decision, all of this is not going to work. All the philosophies that we're giving everybody has no power unless it's mixed with decision and discipline together. And an irrevocable, committed decision is a decision that you're doing whatever it takes, no matter what. And you say, this is where I'm going, no matter what. Not, oh, I'm going to do this, and then the next day don't do it. That's not a decision. A decision comes from a deep place inside of you where you develop that faith. You can't see the results. You develop the faith and you keep going in the direction of your decision. And you don't care. Once you make an irrevocable decision, you'll know if you made it, because now you're not focused on the outside. You're focused on what you can do. And that's where the decision is. Most people, I want everybody to think of themselves right now. Most people are making decisions based on what has happened in the past, what they've known. And that's not a decision. That's called a paradigm. That's your programming, making the same choices, the same type of decisions that are comfortable. An irrevocable, committed decision comes from a great deal of passion. I am sick and tired of being sick and tired. We can go back to our first episode where I said you have to be inspirationally dissatisfied, where there's something so much greater in front of you, and it takes an irrevocable, committed decision to walk into that person.
I love that we've added irrevocable, committed in front of decision because it really removes convenience from the equation. It's really easy to say, I'm going to do X, Y, Z when you're in a good mood and when things are going your way and when momentum's at your back and you're feeling really good about things. But what are you going to do when the obstacles start coming? What are you going to do when you get your first no? And so that irrevocable, committed decision really brings out the dog in all of us. Like, no, I said I was going to do this no matter what. We keep talking about how the convenience cannot be a factor here.
You know, I'll go for a quote. There's a great quote by Dr. Kenneth Blanchard when I was first getting involved to making changes, I really lived this quote. And he says, there's a difference between being interested and being committed. He said, when we're interested, we do what's convenient. When we're committed, we do whatever it takes. We accept only results, not excuses. And at that moment, let me paint a picture for you. At that moment, I mean, my back is against the wall. I'm really struggling. And I just kept living that quote that Dr. Kenneth Blanchard said over and over and over in my mind. And when your why is bigger than your why not, nothing will stop you. But your why has to be big. So we have to reevaluate our whys. Why do we want to make an irrevocable, committed decision? Why do our goals mean something to us? Why is our vision so important? And when we're convicted to our vision and goals, it's easy to make irrevocable, committed decision. See, what I want everyone to do is stop screwing around with their life. I want them to go after what they want. Because you're going to spend the time anyway. You might as well be great. The time is going to move. Go look where you were 6 months ago. Look where you were a year ago. You can look back and be like, wow, this past year has went by so fast from that point, or these past 6 months. But really, go after what you want. I watch too many people shrinking because they don't make decisions. How they make the decisions is they say, I am going to sleep on it. That's not a decision. Well, it actually is a decision. It's a decision that you're going to keep making them the same way, which is procrastination. I'll give you an example. I've worked with clients all over the world, and they'll come to me and they'll say, okay, can you send me this in email? And I always tell them no. And they'll say, can you give me a day to think about it? And I said, you can think about it as long as you want. But if you want what you're telling me you want, then you can't make your decision-making process the same that got you here. Mm-hmm. And that's why I always go to Napoleon Hill, this quote, and Think and Grow Rich. He said, after interviewing 500 of the most successful people in the world, the one common denominator is decision-making. The winners make decisions quickly and change them slow, if at all. The people who lose go back and forth and back and forth. And the truth is, procrastination, lack of decision-making, that's lack of discipline as well, is the cause of failure. And so decision-making, you make it without knowing where you're going. You trust yourself. This is why we have to build our instinct. This is why we talked about it throughout the episodes. We've got to build our higher faculties. See, when your higher faculties are what's creating your environment. And so we've got to build those. We've got to really lock in to where we're going.
Raj, this is so good because everybody's looking for it. They're looking for the answer of how they can get to the next level. And it's not going to be some big, huge formula. It's the really simple things, but it's not easy necessarily to be a great decision maker. You just talked about how winners make decisions quickly. You talked about how you have to discipline yourself. And we talked about discipline on the last episode. There's a few reasons I think why people don't make decisions. One is fear. The other is because they're so focused on their current circumstances that they can't see beyond them or see how to make a decision out of them. Can you talk about what to do in those two scenarios where fear or your current situation is getting in the way of you making a decision?
Yeah, sure. But first, what happens, you want to have a different understanding of fear. I encourage you to have a different relationship with it. Fear is just feedback of what's going inside. But what happens for most people, and I know it used to happen to me, you get consumed with it because you play it in the present moment like it's already happened. Like 90% of the fears that people have never happen. And what I do is whatever fear I have, I love fear. Fear is telling me what I get to work on. And I want you to hear my language. Winning is a language. I get to work on fear. I get to work on that. That's not our problem. Doubt is what gets people stuck. And doubt is just based on old conditioning, and we have to be aware of it. If you have a doubt, it's not happening in the present moment. You feel it is, but it's based on beliefs from the past. And I'll give you a good idea to understand how important the present moment is. Let's say somebody comes to us, Mike, and they'll say, I have a problem. They think the problem is right now. The problem is not now. The problem was created in the past that they keep attention to. So they keep creating because all we have is right now. And we're creating in this present moment what our future is going to be. But the problem is not in the present. The relationship to the problem is in the present. So we have to design our future and have a magnificent obsession of what we want. Then what we want to do is understand the outside is not going to change overnight. But the outside is feedback of what's been going on for several months, several weeks, whatever, several days. It could be wherever you're putting your attention. But we always get what we focus on. So if we focus on doubt, we're going to create more doubt. If we focus on fear, we're going to create more fear. But when we make a decision from the person we want to be, now everything you do is from that person. So let's say somebody has a goal that is really inspiring them. Now, what their duty and job is now to make a decision from that goal with everything they do. I want you to imagine if that goal was achieved, what decisions would you make? What type of behaviors would you have? Because to create the behaviors, we have to will ourselves in the beginning until we rewire ourselves. That's why discipline comes in. And that's why discipline mixed with an irrevocable committed decision, it's impossible not to create massive quantum leaps when you do that every day. And you said something that was brilliant. You said, it's the little things that are easy to do, but they're easy not to do. I remember when I heard Jim Rohn say that the first time, I was like, oh my God, isn't that the truth? And then I discovered success is just a few disciplines compounded over time. That's all it is. It's a few disciplines compound over time, create massive results. And that's what we have to do, is master those few disciplines, but you never let the outside control you. See, that's the biggest cause of failure. I'll tell you this right now. The biggest cause of failure is, first of all, lack of decision-making, like we talked about, or coming from your paradigm. You want to make decisions from your desires. You want to make it from how you want to live. But the counterpart to that, the biggest culprit that keeps people stuck, is they say, this is what I want to do. But they come from emptiness. They don't come from understanding that creation's already finished. Their goal is already here, that they have to think, feel, decide, make choices, and act from that. When you do that, that's when you're not coming from scarcity. Too many people are trying to achieve their goals from the same mindset that got them to where they are, and it's impossible. You cannot come. I want to emphasize this. You cannot come from not having it. You can't say, this is where I'm going, and keep playing small. You can't say, this is where I'm going. I'm going to take shortcuts. This is where I want to go, but I'm not going to match the behaviors. It's impossible.
Raj, you just brought up consistency, which is so important, because we all think that once we make this big decision, that our whole life is going to change, right? And that big decision might be the scariest one to make, but the 10,000 small decisions that follow that really big one are probably more important. It's the choosing in 15 times a day if you have to, making the decision, yes, 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 over and over again. Every time an obstacle comes up, every time you could change directions, every time you could retreat, continuing to say yes to your attitude, to moving forward, to taking action. We talk about the importance of consistency and staying dedicated day after day after day in the pursuit of your goal.
Well, once you master yourself and understand, I'm going to give everyone a brain tattoo first. And I tell all our elite clients this, they have to master this. It's either going to be one day or day one. You decide. I want everyone to make every day day one. That's how you create consistency. And you've got to be humble and hungry. See, what happens is, let's say somebody gets a great result and then they take their foot off the gas. They're going to go back to their set point. We have to make consistent decisions. That's why every day is day one. And you don't let the result cloud your mind like, oh, I got there. Okay. I want you to appreciate the journey that you got there. Then start anchoring. How can I do it? I remember when I first started creating success, and I did this unconsciously, but it was something I did really well unconsciously. And I said to myself, anybody can do this once. You got to repeat it again. I started understanding programming and paradigms that I want to make great identity-based programs. And so I said, I've got to do it 2 months in a row. I've got to repeat this result again where it becomes a habit. And then those are a lot of decisions that I had to stretch myself. I had to build bigger ideas of myself. Instead of the old me would have been like, okay, we could take the foot off the gas. When you're doing really well, when you create this breakthrough, that's when you have momentum working in your favor that you want to put the foot on the gas.
Yeah. And you've talked a little bit about procrastination, but you just brought up momentum. There's no way to build momentum when you're procrastinating. They are moving in opposite directions. So do you want to talk about removing procrastination?
Yeah. All you have to do is brain tattoo, do it now. Do it now. Get that so locked in. Everything you do in the moment. That's where discipline comes in. Discipline, if there's a break between where you are and where you want to go, the discipline is what creates the action. And discipline is going to activate your imagination. That's one of your faculties. And that's what gets you into action. But do it now. My mentor taught me this so early on. He said, Arash, I'm going to tell you this right now. You've got to make this a brain tattoo. And he said, I learned this from W. Clement Stone. He says, you got to do it now. And that's all I ever thought about. That's how I became a great decision maker. See, we're not taught how to make decisions in school. We're taught how to memorize, but we're not taught how to make decisions. and you want to become a master at decision making, I want you to have a PhD in it. See, every decision I make goes on 2 questions I ask. Will this expand me or contract me? Is this going to take me, when I say expand, is this taking me to where I want to go? Is this action step going to do it? A lot of people are trying to get quick results. And then, so they go really hard, then stop. They'll go on a diet, for example. They'll go say, oh, I'm going to do this diet. I'm going to do this calorie deficit, and I'm going to starve myself. And then what happens is they'll lose the weight, and then it comes back on. Why? Because they never change that identity. They never change the behavior. They just use their will, and the will only last long enough. We have to make it into a program. That's why we have to decide all the time. See yourself already as the person you want to become. What would that person do? That's why I say you make decisions from the person you want to be, like you're already that person, and then watch what gradually will start happening in your life.
Raj, I think we all know some people, maybe several people, who anytime they go to make a decision, they have to ask a handful of people, what do you think I should do? What do you think? What do you think? Instead of just making a decision. And so what I'd like you to do is talk about the relationship between confidence, self-image, and decision-making.
Well, they're all working together. So confidence comes from doing. It doesn't come from knowledge. Knowledge is important, but the knowledge is useless without the application. And so that's where confidence comes from. See, you and I may not know how to do something, but we will figure out a way. That's confidence. And that wasn't the case for me. I used to always ask everyone's opinion. Well, as I grew and became more aware, what happened is if you're going to ask anyone's opinion, ask them from the people who are already living the way you want to live. Don't get advice from people who are not where you want to be. You're getting the wrong advice. You're getting a program that is not the same program that you want to rewire with. Study people you admire who are already where you want to be, and watch them. Watch how they make decisions. Watch their behaviors. Watch their model. And then you're going to change your image, because you change your image based on changing your story. If I'm filled with fear, that's going to be my image. That's part of my story. Your story creates the image. So change the story by the decisions you make. So if you look at your question on confidence, image, and decision, nothing happens until you make a decision. Nothing. I have people that I work with in the beginning, and they say, oh, I love studying. I only want you studying an hour a day. I want you to study in the work an hour, and then you got to go out and act. You got to go be that person. You've got to go make that call. You've got to create that consistent behavior over time that gets compounded, that's going to create massive quantum leaps.
Raj, let's get into an action step for today. So if someone is looking to become an effective decision maker, if they want to make a big, irrevocable, committed decision that they're going to get to their goal, their big goal, what should they do first?
Non-negotiable. Start making decisions from your desire. Like, what would you do had you already have it? Start making decisions from the goal. This is very important. Then act right away. And I want you to brain tattoo everything you think of for the next week. Have this in the back of your mind playing. Do it now, do it now, do it now. If that's all you did, then you're going to see. Then I want you to also observe. Is there a time between where you're making a decision and acting? See, a lot of people will say, no, I've decided to become that person when this happens. That's not a decision. See, they're making decisions based on their circumstances. That's not a decision. That's the paradigm beating them. And that's where most people stay stuck. They keep thinking the same thoughts, same feelings, same actions. Or they'll say, I'm going to do it when my income changes, or I'm going to do it when the time is right. The time is never right. The time is always right now. This is where we got to understand. We create in this present moment. What you're doing right now, what I'm doing right now, what Mikey's doing right now is so important to design where she wants to go.
Raj, that's so true. And I feel like we've all probably had that moment where something stuns us a little bit. We go through life and we get comfortable thinking, oh, I've got all this time. I've got 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. And then someone close to us gets really sick, or someone close to us dies. And it's almost like a stun, like, oh, shoot, I might run out of time or something could happen to me. And then you get back into gear. Why is it that we let ourselves lax off like that?
Because it's all our awareness. It's how we're thinking. That's why we have to think in a certain way. See, when you learn how to think, not what to think, that's when everything's going to change. You've got to always think like the person you want to become. Always. That's how you're going to that's how you get out of your comfort zone. See, nobody will get out of their comfort zone being mechanical. Well, if I do this, this is going to know. It's you just go, you just be. Your beingness is where your genius is. When you're not thinking and when you just act, that's what we want to do. See, I was thinking when you were asking me that question, and something popped in my mind around decision making. And I was thinking, how does somebody get from where they are to where they want to go in decision making? They have to trust it. They have to do it. See, and there's going to be failures. This isn't like every decision you make is going to be a guaranteed win. That's not accurate. But the continuous practice of making decisions that are greater than where your current results are, you're going to win over a 3-month period. You're going to see how much these decisions are making or breaking you. See, we have to get out of our head and we've got to get into our heart. Our heart is where our power is. And we want to stop overthinking. And when you're overthinking, it is the biggest sabotager. Why do you think? Because it gets you to hesitate. I have to do this, then this, then this. No, you just go. You do one action step. Think of a tree. If we were chopping down a tree, we wouldn't chop it down in one swing. You have to chop it down with consistent swings over and over. That's the same thing to achieve our goal. Consistent decisions with action over and over and over again.
I love that. Raj, I really love the action step you gave today. And before we end today's call, I want to make sure that one piece of it is really clear for everyone listening. You said start making decisions from your desire. Can you be really clear on what you mean there and what it means to make a decision from your desire so that as everyone goes out and goes into the implementation, they know what they're doing?
Yeah. So I want everyone to think about whatever their goal is. Their number one goal they want more than anything in the world. And from this point on, you make decisions with the assumption. Remember, assumption, we've talked about it in the past, is a fact. So it's already here. So you make decisions like you had already achieved that goal. If you achieve that goal, what type of decisions would you be making? Would you be coming from lack? Would you be hesitating? You wouldn't be. You would be acting right away because that's what that goal demands. It demands you to make decisions that are different than the decisions you're making. And you never let the outside. This is so important. The outside is just feedback. See, what we have to do is we have to dictate the outside, not let the outside dictate us. So when we do that, here's another decision that I talk about over and over again. You've got to make a decision to become so damn good at being monomaniacally focused at accepting and rejecting ideas. You've got to say, when an idea comes in that tries to bring you back, tries to get you to comfort, you say, no, I am not accepting this. And you only accept everything in your environment that is in harmony with your goal. That is a decision. That is discipline. That is expansion. And that is what's going to create a world-class life.
I love it. All right, Raj, before we wrap up today's episode, any final comments?
Just remember this. Burn this in your mind. Your goals demand something greater of you than you are right now. If you already were greater than the goal of the person you want to become, you'd already have the goal. Until you believe it, you're not going to achieve it. So how do you believe? You have to trust. You have to act as that person. And you have to mentally rehearse. You constantly, every morning, think of yourself, see yourself making decisions from that person. What would that person, who would be around them? Who would their mastermind partners be? Who would their mentors be? What action steps would they be doing? See yourself doing those. And then with your eyes open the rest of the day, this is critical part. The rest of the day, make decisions from that person. Start acting. Surround yourself with A+ performers. I'll give you another action step that I think would be even a better action step than what we've even given, like add on to it. I want you every day to make one decision and act on it that is out of your comfort zone. Watch what's going to happen. Make one irrevocable committed decision. This is what I'm going to do. Is there somebody that you want to call? Is there somebody you've been thinking about that you just want to take them to lunch? Make that decision. Learn from them. And when you're there, be so focused on them. Learn, just keep learning, keep raising your understanding.
All right. Thank you so much, Arash. Thank you all for joining us for another episode. We'll see you next week for another episode on the 7-Figure Standard. Until then, leave us a rating and review and share this with your friends and family. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for listening to this episode of 7-Figure Standard. We hope you found the insights and strategies helpful on your journey to success. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a rating and review on your favorite podcast platform to help us reach more people like you. To learn more about Arash and Mikey and how Voss Coach & Co. can help you achieve your goals and reach new levels of success, visit vosscoachandco.com. Thank you again for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode of 7-Figure Standard.